With Uber, Netflix, Airbnb, and Amazon, we truly live in an on-demand economy. Everyone wants something here and now, and some of the biggest companies in the world have built themselves around consumer demand. The same can be said of food shopping, which has been somewhat left behind when compared to e-commerce or transport. Instacart, however, are trying to change that, with the on-demand grocery delivery company now processing around $40 billion worth of sales per year. But what is Instacart, and how did they tap in to the on-demand economy? Here's how it happened. Instacart is a marketplace that offers people the chance to buy food items in their local area and get them delivered within an hour. Essentially, it's a delivery and pickup service for your weekly shop. Headquartered in San Francisco, the business now operates in thousands of cities across North America, with hundreds of different retailers like Costco, 7-Eleven, and Walmart, all offering their goods through the app. Customers can schedule deliveries within the hour or later in the week to suit their needs. Or they can pay for Instacart Express, an annual fee to get unlimited free deliveries. Once your order is placed, Instacart contractors who are stationed nearby the shops will fill the orders, purchase the items, and deliver them in a timely fashion, just in time for dinner.
So let's dive in. It all starts when an entrepreneur named Apurva Mehta actually leaves Amazon, of all places, where he was an engineer and claimed he was bored, and then got together with Max Mullen and Brandon Leonardo, and the three of them are the co-founders of what becomes Instacart. Well, they go to Y Combinator and they try to get into the incubator, and there's a couple different times a year you can get into Y Combinator. There's a approval process, an application process, but they had missed the deadline. And so they were rejected. Well, being an entrepreneur, he said, I got to get in. I want to get into Y Combinator, and I want to get in now. He sent a 6-pack of IPA, this is how the story goes, to one of the founders, one of the board members, I guess, of Y Combinator. They call him the next day and said, hang on, why don't you come in? We want to talk to you a little bit further, because it occurred to them, wow, we just got this grocery, this beer delivered. So first of all, thank you for the beer. Second of all, maybe there's something here. And they get placed into Y Combinator. So a gutsy, strong move, and they're into one of the greatest accelerator incubators of our age. So they graduate out of that, get about $2.3 million of seed money. Now that's pretty healthy seed. In some circles, that would be called a Series A. Nonetheless, they classified it as seed, and Sam Altman apparently being one of the investors. Of course, Sam is founder and the guy that runs Y Combinator. So away they go. They initially start in the Bay Area. It's an easy place to start. You have San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, all these areas there where there's a lot of busy people with busy lives, congested traffic, and who in those markets wouldn't appreciate being able to get groceries delivered? And so they go out and they get a few deals together with some stores, and they're off and running. In 2013, they catch the eye of the great Vinod Khosla Ventures, and they raise $8.5 million in a true Series A. Pretty good money. And they had gotten some deals together with Safeway, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Costco. You know, the simple pitch, hey, we'll deliver for your people. They'll order it on an app, indicate what they want, and we'll be off and running. So they got some early good partners. Well, they also started getting some other investors that were very interested in what they were doing. A year later, in June of 2014, they do a Series B with Andreessen Horowitz. And what was really interesting about that is now, in 2 years since graduating the incubator, they've raised $55 million, and they're making a lot of traction and moving through, and people around Silicon Valley suddenly know that this particular business is going to be a hit, and it's a lot different than Webvan. Let me give you a little history lesson. Webvan goes way back to the dawn of the dot-com era. And there was a company named Benchmark and some others that had made very significant investment in Webvan. And what Webvan was, their concept was, we'll get the trucks, we will build the warehouse, we will put conveyor systems in the warehouse, we'll have refrigerated areas of the warehouse. So what we'll do is we'll effectively make the grocery store distribution center, and we'll have trucks. Now, that meant big, giant stacks of money required from the venture community to build all that infrastructure. Over here, shoppers are going in. You can see them there with their Instacart t-shirts. They come in, they have their list on the phone, they're getting everything for you, putting it in the basket, going through the checkout, it's charged to you, and they're gone. So now what we're talking about is the infrastructure is really now digital infrastructure, and the second infrastructure, the delivery systems, are the cars that are operated by the independent shoppers. We've now entered the gig economy where you can get a gig delivering for Instacart. So you see, way back when, tons and tons of money, and we're going to buy trucks and build infrastructure. Now it's, we'll build the digital infrastructure and the marketing to reach out to the consumer, but all that other infrastructure, it'll be the grocery stores, because they're the warehouse, and the shopper is going to go up and down the aisles and buy the stuff. And then they'll be delivered to you, and it's going to use the shopper's car, and we'll worry about paying them out of the margin we can make of the fee that you're going to pay on top of the grocery cost. So there you have it. A big, big difference. And the history of Webvan, very interesting. There's a book called, I think it's called E-Boys, the story of Benchmark Capital and what they invested in. It's an older book, but you go back and read that and you'll see the kind of the thinking, the things that happened way back when. So away they go, and a year later, they attract Kleiner Perkins Caulfield buyers. The great Kleiner Perkins, $220 million, a Series C raised in January of 15, and now we're suddenly hearing words about, hey, it's not just $1 billion company entering the unicorn club, which is $1 billion in valuation, it's a $2 billion valuation. So now we're saying, wow, things are really happening. There's some other things that started happening here at the workforce that I'm going to come back to in a second, because it was a serious pitfall, and it is a deep question for Instacart going into the future, even today. Following that, in March of 17, it is Sequoia and $400 million. Now, there's a lot more than just Sequoia in there. And some of these previous investors came along for the ride and followed their previous investment and put more in. But it was Sequoia driving the Series D, $400 million and a $3.4 billion valuation. Let's take a look at that. This is 5 years, barely 5 years, and you are suddenly a $3.4 billion valuation. This is remarkable, but it's also a testimony of the new gig economy and the value you can make by building a great big consumer base of customers and what the consumer is willing to pay. At this same time, there were rumors out there that it was about a $2 billion run rate, and it had 500,000 of those consumer customers. We go one more step to the beginning of this year, 2018. In February, they announced a $200 million investment in a Series E from Cotu and Gladebook. And there was one other thing that's kind of a tongue twister. It was no mo to the IPO, said the CFO. So that's the end of our fundraising, and we anticipate our next step is an IPO. Now, when you take a look at all this and you realize there's a competition with Amazon, you could see why maybe some of the investors are going to drive toward an IPO. There's a couple reasons for that. The IPO market hasn't been particularly good, and if they could show that they are a good company making great margin with good relationship with those shoppers, which I'm going to talk about in a second, wow, we could get this out to the market, and it means this $850 million approximately that's been raised from seed through Series E, the investors will get their money back. That's the natural order of things. During the IPO, a lot of the venture capitalists, they may hold on to a little bit, but by and large, are going to sell into the IPO, it's called, and that's when they get the return on the risk and investment that they took to bring it to this level. So now you're sitting there in right now, the beginning of 2018, at a $4.2 billion valuation. That is $4.2 billion in a little less than 6 years. There is only one word for that, and that is damn. That is a big stack of money to be generating in a short amount of time. Now, I call it a stack of money because right now it's just virtual money. It's a valuation. It needs to get converted to an actual valuation after an IPO. But nonetheless, that's the number right now that you would need at a bare minimum if you knocked on the door and you wanted to buy Instacart.